The Chiefs have been looking for someone to take a hold of that left tackle spot for years now. They went from Orlando Brown to Donovan Smith, and this season, 2024, there will be a camp battle to decide who's going to be the left tackle for this year and possibly for the future. It's Kingsley Suamataia, their second round pick that they wanted to trade up to go get, and Wanya Morris, who started at left tackle for the injured Donovan Smith last year, a former third-round pick out of Oklahoma, who played right tackle and can clearly play both positions, kind of a swing tackle for them. And today, we are going to talk in depth about Wanya Morris, whether he has the edge going into camp with his tape, his experience from last year, and everything over Kingsley Suamataia, who's going to be starting fresh in the NFL, a rookie, and with the experience that Wanya Morris gained last year, in the guys that he played against, really the predominant pass rushers he played. How is that going to help him with his experience going into not just this battle, but into the preseason to see where he's going to be able to take his game, how that's going to all shake out. So I hope you guys are ready in for another film room here on RGR Football. My name is Daniel Harms, Senior Film Analyst, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that sub button right now and allow me to earn a like from you guys as we get into Wanya Morris's tape. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump in because he's an enigma. I don't know what's going on with this right now, but there we go. That's all figured out. Wanya Morris, the left tackle here. This was the first game that he came in for the injured Donovan Smith, lined up against rookie as well, Lucas Van Ness on that outside of him. And it was not a welcome beginning for Wanya Morris, not just his second drive or first drive, his second drive, but lots of different things that are going on in the NFL. Yes, it's a rookie, speed to power, predominantly power, but stressing the edge. We're going to see Lucas Van Ness get around here, rip underneath, and then close on Patrick Mahomes for the sack. One thing about Wanya Morris that I want to stress is while he's big, he's long, he's physical, he's athletic, I do think he has slow feet when it comes to engagement. So when you're trying to set up your jabs, your punches, and stay with a pass rusher, you like to keep your feet underneath you. We see right here, one, he really likes to get his two hands on a pass rusher. He's kind of leaning into it, his head's down just a little bit, and he's more lunging with that two-hand jab, which creates this turn style effect. So he's trying to get in here at the chest level, but we see here that his feet aren't going to move as fast as you want to, and you have a pass rusher who's going to clear this edge right here around the arc. And what you're going to see from Wanya Morris is that the hips are going to open. So this is not a bad position to be in if you can keep your feet moving with the pass rush, moving in that direction. But what ends up happening is the hips are going to turn around with the pass rusher, opening that door to the quarterback, and it's easy for Van Ness to rip underneath here and just close a corner that right there and get through. So you want to be able to engage, keep your feet underneath you all the way through your drop, and that's one of the things that you see right there. His foot gets kicked right back out, his right foot gets kicked out, and then his hips start to turn, making it easier for Van Ness to corner there for the close. So he faced, honestly, a legitimate ring of pass rushers. Van Ness beat him quite a few times, but Rashawn Gary for the Packers, and you have Gregory Rousseau, Von Miller from the Bills, Max Crosby, he got beat up by Kuntz pretty good from the Raiders as well, and Trey Hendrickson, Josh Uche, number of really good pass rushers that he faced in his time as a starter last season. There's Max Crosby with a spin move on him. So for those of you that don't know, we're going to kind of get into why it's important to not lunge. And what that is where you take your hands, honestly, it's wherever you're taking your shoulders and they're extending outward. And instead of having more of an upright position with your back and your shoulders, it turns into this elongated where your shoulders are coming out here, so you're top heavy and your feet are behind you, they're not underneath you, your arms are extended, and you're timing it. And for Wanya Morris, it became very predictable for him. And when you're top heavy, you're susceptible to all kinds of quick pass rush moves. The swim move, the pull through, where you can see arms get on through and pull through. That's the same with the push pull. And then you saw the spin move right there from Max Crosby. He can time it extremely quickly because, one, he's a fantastic player in his own right, but he's attacking the inside, waiting for that jab to come, and then he just spins right around. So, yes, the pass was complete to Justin Watson, if my eyes don't mistake me. But again, you want to be in a position where you are in front of the quarterback, your hips aren't opening a ton. Like, this is fine right here, and then you're going to see him just kind of lunge, right? So Max Crosby's coming here. At least he's making it look like it, so he can spin right around you because he knows that two-hand jab is coming right there. So you see the foot's coming back right here. Hands are going out, shoulders are going down, head's going down a little bit too. So all of that creates movement in the vertical direction, and Max Crosby comes back around with a great ice pick spin move. Ice pick is where you take your left arm, is where he's going to take his left elbow and put it into the back of Wanya Morris right here. So spin, ice pick right there. So that's where his left arm is, like I'm talking about right here. Just that elbow right there in the back, so you know that you're clear all the way through. Honestly, I don't know why that button exists on my Epic Pen. It makes no sense, but either way, you get turned around. So lunging is very important to not do for a number of reasons, not just as a pass rusher, but for a run blocker too. Is just imagine if you are, think about it. If you're about to run block, you're obviously you're on an angle, you're running forward, and if your shoulders go down and out, what can they do? You can see the smack, you can see the swipe, and you can get right into the backfield from the defender standpoint. So lots of different things that lunging helps the defenders out for, and most of the time you're not going to win that battle if you are lunging as an offensive lineman. So here he is against Trey Hendrickson, and we get a sack fumble. They always call it a sack fumble when you get a strip sack as a defensive player. They lead all of that to the player. So in his time as a starter, Wanya Morris had 23 total blown blocks. 20 of them were in pass protection, and 5 total sacks were given up as well. It was the most on the team in that time. Inexperience, all of those things play a huge role. But when you watched Wanya Morris at Oklahoma, he was a very hot and cold player. He had hot streaks. He had physical, great grip strength, physical power, things to be able to move. Obviously, he's a good athlete, but he also had moments where it doesn't all add up. And this is showing you about the things that he struggled with. That's what we're starting with, the things that he struggled with, so we can get into the nitty-gritty of the player that he was coming out, and the growth that he did sustain through his time starting, and what he has to do to continuously get better. This one's all about hand placement, okay? He's predominantly a two-hand jab player, so he will jab with two hands, but look where his hand is. His hand's up here. It's on his face mask. That makes it super easy for Trey Hendrickson to just throw the arms aside, slap him away, and get underneath. For a speed guy who does speed to power, who's quick with his hands, and he's quick around the edge and the corner, this is too easy. It's fine here, but then your hands get up too high. The hands need to go to the chest. You want all of that to make it tougher for him to slap them away. One, it's a quick motion up and then underneath for Hendrickson right there, just to be able to slap, rip through, extension, all of that comes through for him. But what we want from a Wanya Morris standpoint is right now. See his hands down? You got a jab right inside here. Hand needs to come now. But another problem we're seeing, hand carriage. Where he carries his hands are very low. They're down at his hips, and we see the same over here with Juwan Taylor at a time. But his left hand is a little bit more cocked. It's upright. Hand carriage is important. How quickly do you think he can get his hand to his chest if he needs to move it quick? Or how do you think that is going to be more inaccurate? We saw his hands go up and into the face mask, like right there. It's more of a up and arc, an up and around movement. So Wanya Morris, hand location, hand carriage, very, very inconsistent. And again, harping a lot on the negatives here, because he did, again, he played a lot against some very good pass rushers, and he had to learn a lot in that limited time that he was a starter. And I think it ultimately prepared him for watching his own tape back, seeing what he was doing wrong and how he's going to be able to adapt to it. This is another one of those areas where he's big. You know, he's 6'5", 305 pounds, I think he's listed at. So he's a little bit light for a big guy like he is, but with 35-inch arms. And this play itself is tough, because Josh Uche, who's rushing against him, is predominantly a speed, bendy guy. And he is going to just absolutely demolish Wanya Morris into the ground right here. And this is my big problem with what Wanya Morris, at least what he was doing here. Okay. We look at the drop step here. So he is expecting speed to power at this point, because he knows that Josh Uche wasn't rushing around. He also knows, at least probably to an extent, that he has a chipper on the outside. So he knows that he's coming speed to power, and it's a hesitation. What he's going to try and do here is more catch Josh Uche. So his right leg is going to go back, and he's going to try to absorb that power. But right here is where miscalculation happens. He's on 1 foot. 1 foot, and Josh Uche times this perfectly, where he transitions that speed into power into his chest when his right foot is off the ground. And boom, from there, he's back on his heels and shoulders going over, now onto the ground. This is how predominantly I've seen Wanya Morris try to absorb power, try to get ready for someone to come through his chest. Instead of keeping your feet underneath you, he tries to really get a long back step that allows him to dig that foot in and try to reestablish. Then what we see from tackles is engage with both feet on the ground, and if you start feeling yourself getting upright and getting lifted up, that's when you do that hop. I've talked about it quite a few times, and there's some clips I have just over the last couple of years from examples of these offensive tackles coming in and having to use that little quick hop to reestablish. This is going to be more often than not a demise to him himself, and it's going to be something used against him. So getting back to some of the hand location we talked about earlier with Trey Hendrickson, we saw that hand go up really high, right? This was a common theme for Wanya Morris. Hand location was a lot to the head and neck area, and this time it got flagged. The play ends up in, the Kadarius Toney drop, which were into interception, which we don't want to really focus on. But what we want to focus on is the hand location. That's the big problem here. And for Wanya Morris, you don't want to have penalties on top of having honestly poor pass protection. He just needs to be more confident in his strikes, and I think that this isn't a bad hand carriage. It's not a bad strike. It's fine hand carriage, and he goes to strike early, but his contact is right at that neck area, and then it gets up underneath right there. We see into the neck. So I don't really understand, for a guy with his length, how it goes so high and how it's so consistently high. So that's another thing he has to work on. But multiple times a game, I saw heads getting pulled back, arm and his hand going up into the neck area of a pass rusher, and it's not great for them to do that. So just to show you more about the hand location stuff here, why it's important is because it does allow your feet to stay underneath you for the most part. If they're going high, you're lunging a little bit, your shoulders go out in front of you. But also, when you strike with that one hand and you keep that inside hand free for inside counters, it allows you to just kind of move a little bit freer. You're not just engaging all with your entire upper body. It's a lot harder to move. You're going to see here, Wanya Morris does a good job of taking that left hand, striking it inside his chest. So we've got, again, good hand location right here into the chest. Good body position. in good body position. He's putting himself in between the pass rusher and the quarterback. Shoulders are turned towards towards the pass rusher. Hips aren't all the way opening for that corner yet, but we get a really nice look here. Now he stays with him, right? Hand, yeah, it's outstretched a little bit, but his feet are coming with him. He sinks those hips and he gets in there, all right? It gives the quarterback more time to throw the football. So this is a really good example on the opposite side of what he's able to do when he actually uses good hand carriage, hand location, and then keeps his feet underneath him for that pass rusher. Really liked what he did there. So that was most of the bad. Wanya Morris, very up and down. Hand location, hand carriage. His balance needs some work. And I would prefer if he stopped using the two-hand jabs so much. It really reinforces his lunging problem. And when you have inexperience, you really lean on things that you did in college. And he was a heavy-handed two-hand jab person. So as he gets more experience, and hopefully this training camp process plays out, where he's keeping his feet underneath him and he's just kind of jabbing, mixing it up a little bit too. It's consistent. Max Crosby, one of the best defensive end players in the NFL, timed that spin move we saw because he knew the two-hand jab was coming. He knew he'd be extended out in front of him and that his outside would be just fine. So got to be able to mix things up a little bit with your hands and what you're doing from a pass set standpoint. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things that he was able to contribute to the offense and why there was some really positive talk from Wanya Morris in the season when Donovan Smith went down. For all the warts and the problems, I think that he was a good run blocker. We've talked about the run blocking and stuff. This is just giving McKinnon time. It allows him to set here. So he's waiting patiently, trying to figure out where that hole is going to open up, and Wanya Morris is right there in that defensive end's grill, not letting him get into the backfield. And that just gave him time to be able to go out here and make a play and score a touchdown. This is all just split zone. So you've got every offensive lineman moving this way. You're going to have the action coming across the offensive line from Noah Gray. There's also going to be a jet sweep motion prior to the snap. So you're trying to move players from left, or defenders from left to right, and then run the opposite direction. So you get a block down here. Jerick McKinnon's going to come out to your left as well and get all of this done. So here's that jet sweep, boom, and then you get the split zone action. So Wanya Morris, again, he's got a hand in his face too, but you see him trying to relocate his hands and he gets them underneath into the shoulder pads there. He's really physical, and that upper body strength that he has when he's got his hips and his feet underneath him, he can really mess some guys up. And that's the thing about sinking your hips, right? You can reestablish power and distribute it much more effectively and efficiently when you keep your hips underneath you and you're using it to kind of almost coil and explode through. So right there, he did a really nice job staying underneath that edge rusher and staying with the block, allowing Jerick McKinnon to come in, be patient, and find that hole and score. So getting back to his hand, his hand usage as well, or excuse me, this is just him being an athlete, because it's fun to watch players block. This was a unique play that the Chiefs ran. They had both Pacheco and Mahomes in the backfield, and they both split out. They bring back Pacheco. But just really quickly, appreciation post for MVS as well, who's going to come out here and block. And these two guys are going to be keys to Isaiah Pacheco scoring and the Chiefs taking their only lead of this entire football game. But really nice job here, getting downhill, blocking these guys up, and then taking him into the end zone, or the out of bounds marker there from Wanya Morris. Really fun player in space. He's an explosive player. He's a little bit late with the snap sometimes, but he does have an explosive first step. It's very powerful, and he does a really good job of getting into his drop, I think, when he's on time and being all, I think, mentally engaged, because that's another thing too. You've got so many things that you're thinking about as an offensive rookie, right, on the offensive line playing left tackle, that sometimes you can forget to get off the ball and get into your drop. So at the end of the day, he's big. He's very good at pulling. That's why we have talked about him as a possible replacement for Trace Smith after this season. But he's just a physically nasty player too. Like when you can get him in his best, in his element, I think that this is really where, as a backside player against AJ Epinesa, he gets down. We see him look to get underneath, the rusher get underneath Wanya Morris, but he's going to be much more physical. The torque strength that he has from the hips all the way up into that upper body of his, from the ab strength, the core, all of that. He's very, very good at being able to redistribute that. So you see him just kind of throw AJ Epinesa to the ground, having a little bit of fun with it. And then you get one of, I think, my favorite plays from an offensive lineman perspective. It's that snatch, right? We talk about players just all of a sudden tackles dropping guys to the ground. This is exactly what he does. He's moving from his right to the left. He gets his right hand underneath the rusher, and right here, boom, you're in the ground and you're gone. You're out of the play. It has to be quick. It has to be efficient. You can't be seen doing it. You usually will get penalized if it's an elongated one, but this is very quick. Boom, to the ground. You're out of the play. It's over. Fantastic job. And then you see a big play to that, or Travis Kelce. So when he's having a lot of fun and he's moving, being physical, and being allowed to just kind of maybe mentally disengage a little bit. And when I talk about being engaged and being disengaged, some of these times you're going to see where you have to be fully mentally engaged to get off the football. But when he's playing freely and he's not thinking too much, right? The overthinking is the big problem for a lot of players in the NFL. It's why the game moves so fast for him. But when he's really getting into it and he's using his own strength and just kind of playing, and he's off the ball and he's really getting into it, he's very fun and physical. And that snatch trap stuff is really fun to watch because you don't see it a lot for young players. You don't really see them execute that snatch right there. So this is one more of that hand location where he's going to be able to sink his hips, relocate his hands. So right there, you think he's almost beat. He's a little bit overextended, a little bit of a lunge, but he keeps his feet moving. He sinks his hips and he gets underneath and he stops Trey Hendrickson in his tracks, and he's able to prevent him from cornering. This was always a fun play, considering that just a little bit of an angle route from Isaiah Pacheco. Everyone forgets about him, and it's touchdown. It's just fun to watch them come out of a bunch formation, but run that angle route underneath it, and you really lose track of the running back sometimes. So again, wanting to showcase some of the growth that I saw from beginning to the end of his starting time. Quick, really nice first hand strike. Okay, so you get a little bit of, and then he relocates it. That is one of the most important parts of playing tackle, in my opinion. It has to be a quick strike, and then you can disengage. Okay, throw off, make him throw. Like we saw Mitchell Schwartz for years do the faux hand, right? Where he just kind of flashes his hand a little bit, forces that edge rusher or pass rusher, whoever it is, to do something first. So Wanya Morris jabs with his left hand, feet are underneath him, shoulders are a little bit out in front of him, but that's okay, right there. And he keeps moving his feet. He disengages with that left hand, and then he reestablishes underneath in the chest, a little bit high in the chest area, and he's able to take control of that from a hips and footwork standpoint. That's what gets me excited about the upside of Wanya Morris, wherever he ends up playing. Because I do think that he has the ability to win the left tackle spot. There's no doubt in my mind about the talent. It's more about the ups and downs, right? If those ups and downs continue, that's where he's going to have his toughest test. I wanted to show this because I think it's an extremely fun overload stunt. Everyone's on the left side of the center here, and you have one pass rusher who's just going to come down here and try to cause havoc, and then they're going to take Max Crosby and rush him around. It's a very fun pressure. What the Raiders were doing last year at the end of the season defensively was very good. We know that. It doesn't excuse the loss at all. But we saw that back foot, right? The back foot we talked about earlier where it causes him to go off balance. This time it was a nice job of understanding that pass rusher is coming out in front of you, right? He's going to be knifing around. The only thing that I think he probably needed to do a little bit better in this situation was pass off. So extend his arms on the pass rusher, knowing Joe Thuney is here. He's going to be able to help me. Keep your eyes up just a little bit for that looper. Now the play ends up just fine, no problems there, and he shows off his athletic ability and honestly, the timing of his drop step. So it's out there first, it's in the ground, then he's engaging, right? So he has his foot in the ground, he's able to reestablish himself and then outwardly project his physicalness right there. Boom. And he comes inside and he takes with him. So that was a good rep from that standpoint. But most of the time, when you're faced with an edge rusher who's going to knife inside, you've got a looper coming somewhere. So just something for him to put in his back pocket there to remember. But at the end of the day, this is a player who will be his best when he's not thinking as much, and he's just playing the game physically, like right here against Trey Hendrickson, where he's just going to take him and put him in the dirt. And we notice all of these wins, right? His feet are underneath him. He's not prematurely opening his shoulders. A little bit of an outward lunge there, but he's absorbing power, and he's hand fighting, and then boom, snatches them down to the ground. So lots of good, lots of bad from Wanya Morris, but you should expect that from third round picks, right? Thrust into being a starter at the left side of an offensive line and led by Patrick Mahomes, this entire pressure surrounding him to not just protect Patrick's blind side, but to be impactful in the run game, something that Donovan Smith was not at all last season, but at least until the Super Bowl run where he got at least average as a run blocker. So tools. Wanya Morris is big. He's long. He's got really good athletic footwork to get out and moving when he's not encumbered with a pass rusher. When he is, that's when we see some of the problems with his slow feet. But it did get better as the starting time went on. I think he understood more about how the game's really, really fast. It's a lot faster than it is in college, and that transitions into the footwork a little bit. So all in all, lots of talent, lots of upside, and that's the reason that the Chiefs selected him in the third round, and it was a good pick then, and that's why he's got an opportunity to win the left tackle position in camp this season against Kingsley Suamataia. Even though I would say he's got the upper hand because of the earlier draft stock and they wanted to maybe trade up and get him earlier, Wanya Morris can absolutely win this job to start the year, and if he does, it's because of all the things that we talked about on the negative side getting cleaned up just a little bit. All you got to do is be a little bit better and keep the tools that you learned last season and get better from that perspective. But I think he's got to put on a little bit of weight to be able to really anchor, because his balance is not very good, and you're going to see a lot of speed to power, and that's what the NFL is, right? It's a lot of powerful players. You have to be able to, keep that sand in the pants and get down and reestablish yourself. So I'm excited to watch this training camp battle. I know you guys are too, because this is one of the premier camp battles for the 2024 season. I hope you guys enjoyed this video breakdown of Wanya Morris's 2023 starting, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do, not just in the training camp, preseason, but into the season, and hopefully one of these guys can be a long-term starter at left tackle for the Chiefs and getting continuous production out of him to allow Patrick Mahomes to do what he does best. We have more content for you guys coming now. This is the dead period. So please, if you are new to the channel, hit the sub button to stay up to date on everything that myself, Ryan, Gary, and the entire team here at RGR do on a weekly basis. Have yourselves a great rest of your week, and we'll see you.